Hey there, welcome to the Mental Perk podcast. I'm Carla Hutcherson, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Brandy Mock, entrepreneur, author, and community leader. And we're here to talk about
real people, real issues, and real talk. All right, well, welcome back to the Mental Perk. We are so excited to have Miss Lisa Beaty join us today. Lisa is a super exciting person. I have known her for well over 30 years. I guess it's been a while.
Ooh, so she's got some secrets on Carla.
She knows where all my bodies are buried. She knows where my bodies are buried.
I have some of those secrets on video.
Oh, do tell,
yes,
do show.
I do know about that specific incident, yes.
Oh, she's just claiming one. Yeah. I think I know the story.
You know, we're going to talk about a lot of different things with Lisa today, but she is a pretty amazing lady and mother of 3, and we're going to talk about some of those challenges today. But first, we have to start with our this or that. This is so specific for you. So, this or that. Panties or no panties?
No panties, of course.
She looks at me.
I'm all about panties.
I'm not.
I am all about panties. But you have to
I'm on
have
Team Lisa.
I know you are.
Yeah.
I realized this. I didn't ever think I'd find another friend that was a no panties person, but yeah.
How uncomfortable do you want to be in life?
Right.
It's all, but see, I see it the other way around. I think there's a barrier to chafing.
I mean, but you're going to have to send a search and rescue team out for that string. So I'm like, I'd just rather not have to call 911. That's right. You know?
So, but yes, but I think that tells a lot about people and if they choose.
What does it tell about people, Lisa?
Boxers
what do
or
you think?
briefs, panties or no panties.
People that are free.
Nothing holds us back.
Free
That's
spirits.
Right.
And I would say that does quite describe both of you.
Yeah,
free
we are
spirits.
free.
Yeah, I like that. So, but yeah, so we're so glad to have Lisa. What are some of your things that you love? I know what they are, but.
Oh, that I love, like hobbies, anything. I love horses.
I knew that. Horses.
Riding them, sitting in the snow with them.
But how do you ride horses with no panties?
You do, don't you?
You wear some really comfortable riding breeches. They're called.
And you don't want panties with the riding breeches?
Because then you got, no, that's very bad.
Okay.
Bouncing up and down, the horse is making you, trotting, and you're trying to pick yourself. No,
And
it just
everywhere
don't.
there's a seam. It's
It
like
just don't
digging
work
into
out.
you.
No.
Smooth breeches
No.
with no seams.
No seams. Okay. All right. So this is good.
Very
so horses, yes. And you have 2 beautiful grandsons too, huh?
They're my favorite. They're my heart. They're 2 and 4. And the 2-year-old called me this morning and told me for the first time he went pee-pee in the potty.
Oh my gosh.
Big moment.
That's a big moment.
I said, you got a what? He got a lollipop.
I love those moments. But you have them out on the horses too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. From the time I could get them up there.
Oh,
That's awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Well, we are going to talk to you today just because as a mother, you've had some challenges, and one of your kiddos, which is precious in every way, he struggled pretty early on with some addiction issues.
Yes. Age 11.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I didn't realize it was 11. I was thinking it was more like high school.
No, that's when it got more serious.
Okay.
Started out as age 11.
And I think it's interesting because from, just me being around during the time you're raising your son, I feel like a lot of it, he was kind of self-medicating, just dealing with anxiety and depression and other mental health issues that he was struggling with. Do you feel like some of it was that, or do you feel like there were other reasons he got started using so young?
Probably both. He was always very much liked to march to the beat of his own drum. He was the troublemaker, liked to be the center of attention, the clown. Wasn't an obedient child, wasn't easy to get obedient, just didn't, some of those kids you spank or you tell them no and they get teary-eyed, and it just didn't faze him. And get in trouble school didn't faze him much. He definitely, certainly had ADD issues when he was young, so he couldn't sit still in the classroom. Teachers didn't like that, so he was constantly getting discipline, and I think he just couldn't manage his behavior, so he just continued to do and say, and we had him tested for all kinds of things, trying to figure out if there was some underlying issue that we could, and all the tests said, no, he's fine, except that he can't sit in a classroom with his legs crossed and hands in his lap. He's not that kind of kid. So, but the other side of that is, and then he was completely opposite of my other two kids who were very straight-laced, rule-following, sensitive kind of kids. So I think all the more in the family, he didn't probably feel like he fit in because he was different than them. He was right in the middle of that. And then when he went into middle school, his immediate best friend, who we thought was the nicest, sweetest kid, always in our home, he was the nicest, sweetest kid. But we didn't realize this. They spent time at both of our houses, but this kid had an older brother who was heavy into drug dealing. So I'm pretty sure he took in friends of his siblings at an early age, trying to introduce drugs to those kids because he made a profit off them. And someone who's susceptible, like my son who didn't fill in and is always looking for something to make him feel better or to belong or whatever, that was right up his alley, something that could kind of take off the edge and the anxiety and stuff at an early age.
Wow. How did you find out he was using like at 11 years old? Because that's like 5th grade, right? 5th or 6th grade?
6th grade.
Okay.
I don't, it's a lot of it's a blur because it was kind of a traumatic experience, and so you forget details. I don't think we actually traced it back to 11 until we got him further along the path and we started asking questions and figuring things out, and that's when we actually found out. But in middle school, his behavior got worse, and I think we caught him one summer in somebody's house. We went to get him, and the door was open, and you could just smell marijuana just poofing out the door. And so that was the first time we actually caught him, and he must have been in probably 7th grade by then. He was at a friend's house. So, that's when we suspected, but that was when we actually first confirmed. We could smell it, and that kind of thing.
And so it probably just kind of continually got worse, because I know, just being your friend over the years and the challenges that you faced, it's like, I mean, you did everything that you possibly could. You were getting him help. You were getting him counseling. You were on top of it. You knew where, you had his cell phone. You knew where his friends were. You were talking to all the parents. I mean, anything that, as a therapist, we would tell parents to do, you were doing all of those things, and yet you couldn't stop the pathway he was going down.
Absolutely. I did everything. I mean, not long ago, there wasn't as much technology as there is now, but I tracked his phone, and I'd follow him if I could find him somewhere, and I had a drawer full of addresses and phone numbers and all kinds of information on every friend I ever even thought he associated with, so I had some of the parents' names. I even would look up parents' names and call parents and report their kids for doing stuff with my kid. So
yeah,
I did everything.
I mean, you were a huge advocate. I mean, you were there the whole time, and you were on top of it, and he still found ways around you.
Well, they become professional liars.
Yeah.
I mean, don't even think about it. No emotion, no. And they are the most sincere-looking, honest, heartfelt liars. As a mother, you want to listen and you want to believe, and even they can produce tears, and not a shred of truth can be coming out of their mouth. It's just the way they have to.
Well, it's the addiction. I mean, they're addicts, so their job is to make you think they're okay so they can continue the behavior. Yeah. And it is scary, though, because, you, as a mom, we're all moms sitting here. And as a mom, you do anything for your baby.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's really hard when you've done everything for your baby, and it's still not enough.
I mean, you had to make a lot of tough decisions along the way. I think, at first you were just trying so hard to prevent it. But over time, you had to let him work through it. And that was really hard for you. I remember you having to make some really tough decisions about not letting him in the house or, not rescuing him. I think even one time he had to go to jail. Was that right? And you made the very tough call not to get him out.
Yes.
Yeah. And so tell a little bit about some of those experiences and what you went through.
Yeah, he's been arrested numerous times. Mostly, first of all, it all started off just marijuana. And so his dad was like, oh, I did marijuana as a kid and I was fine. It's okay. So he didn't really take it as seriously as I did, because I was putting that together with his behavioral issues. And I felt like it was a bigger problem than casual. He's just like smoke pot like some people do, and he'll outgrow it. But we would contain him in the house, and he'd find a way he'd go outside for fresh air to play with the dogs, he would say. And then we would find out later, we're inside the house. He's got kids coming by. He somehow managed, we had trackers on the computer. We didn't find this out till later, but so we could see every word he typed. And after we discovered this, we would find out that he was somehow communicating with friends without a phone and with all that, to have them come by the house and hand him stuff over and under our backyard fence.
Oh, wow.
We were in the house thinking, oh, how sweet. He's playing with the dogs. That's good for him. And that's not what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so there were things like that went on, and you're like,
Yeah.
But yes, he had a couple arrests, always just for, like, they found marijuana on him. They found ecstasy, I think, one time. And so the first 2 times, you rescue. Mm-hmm. And then after the 3rd time, you start blocking, turning your phone on Do Not Disturb.
So hard.
So you don't get the middle of the night calls, at least.
Yeah.
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 I'm like, I'm no more in the middle of the night. And then you make them stay there as long. I went with school officials, with the local police, begging them to help me with consequences. And they were no help. They just want to send them back to you. It's your problem, which it wasn't their problem, but it would have helped if I'd had a little more support from the school district and from
They probably
local
see so much
jail.
of it. It's hard
They
for them
do.
to.
Yeah.
So
They do.
you're talking about this. He's been put in jail. You're finally at the point of just exhaustion. Of you and I've shared this. We've both got a history of family that have had, illegal street drugs and then prescription drugs, which you usually see with an addict. They'll teeter back and forth between the two, right? Mm-hmm. So how soon was it, or did he go from pot to something harder? You talked about ecstasy. Did he go into meth, or did he get into cocaine or any of that stuff?
Never meth. I do know cocaine. I don't know the full history. He is very touchy about going back there. He's
Sure.
like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to go back there.
Right.
Because according to him, he eventually switched more to alcohol.
Okay.
I have no reason not to believe that's true, but he's an adult. So,
Right.
So I don't know the full history. I know he did cocaine. I don't believe he ever did meth. I don't know to what degree any of that was done, because we kept plopping him. We were doing drug tests. We'd plop him into this rehab place and that rehab place, and we just kept throwing him places where he didn't have a chance to get too deep, because in those places you're locked down. You can't get drugs.
Right.
So I think that helped some, in that he didn't have time to get too deeply connected to.
Because y'all were
to
so on
anyone.
top of it.
We were very on top of it, as much as, I don't know, maybe
Much you
too
can
much.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
I
think there
definitely
is
don't
too
think
much.
it too much.
No.
I mean, I think you had a healthy balance. I think in the beginning you were in rescue mode. And then at some point, I think there was a switch in you where you then were like, I've got to love him from afar. I have to let him work through this, especially when he's been in program after program after program. You can't do it for him. And so you had to kind of switch how you handled it. But I would never say that you were too involved. I mean, like you had a really good balance of what you needed to do for him. And I think even now, seeing where he is now, I think he's learned to trust you in that.
Well, and I think also, too, a lot of people don't realize that you can go through treatment, you can have the best cheerleaders behind you, but until that addict is ready to say, I am done with this, I do not want to do this anymore, it's destroying me, it's destroying my family, it's destroying my friendships. Until they get to that point, you could have an addict that was recovered. They're always going to be addicts, but someone that's recovered and staying accountable and not using, you could have them telling them everything identical that they used to do. Until that addict's ready to stop, they're not going to stop. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. And it's draining. It's and then, it's one thing to have a friend, but when it's your baby.
Yeah, it's really
so
hard to parent through it. Oh my gosh, and to know the boundaries and how it's very difficult. We finally reached a point when he was 17. We're like, this is our last chance to get him as a juvenile in a program that we hope will take an effect. Our family was wrecked. He had broken into the house. He'd climbed up on the roof trying to sneak in because he was always locked out when we weren't there, and he fell off the roof, broke his ankle. It was just like one thing after another after another. He got hateful and mean and awful, and we were just like at the edge of our rope. So we did one of those programs where we basically kidnapped him.
Like an intervention.
We did that, and I think
Hardest thing ever.
it was the hardest thing ever. And we took him in the middle of nowhere, put him in this program. It took him 9 months to graduate. Some graduate in 4 or 6, took him 9. And that gave us time to breathe and heal and gave him time to work through things. I think to this day that was very traumatic for him. He doesn't talk a lot about what happened to him. I don't know that that was life-changing for him, but it helped our family like get a restart and a breath. And we think it's what helped him finish high school, because we're like, if we could just get him through high school, because as an adult, you can go,
bye. Yeah.
And this is a kid, I mean, like, number one, the Beatys, like, Lisa, you come from very highly intelligent roots, and, your son's dad also is very intelligent, and this is a kid who's brilliant, like very genius smart. IQ, yeah. Such a smart kid when he was little, and the drugs just really took a toll on him.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about marijuana, and it's just, it's no big deal, it's safe and all this, and it really is a gateway drug. It really opens the door, because eventually marijuana stops working, right? It stops being enough, and that's where you start taking risk and start trying other things. And so, I think there's a big debate on that, on marijuana and, how it's used, but there is something to that for certain people. It may not be everybody. It's like some people, marijuana is going to be like alcohol, right? But for other people, it leads to other things. And those are the people with those really addictive personalities. And I think that that's kind of what we saw with your son.
Absolutely. That was exactly it.
Yeah. And so I think that's a conversation that people should have, right? Because you just don't know. I mean, like, some people can drink alcohol and not be addicted, and some people drink it and they become addicts, right? So it's just kind of the way you're genetically made. Yep. And so I think that's really important to point out, but this kid was, he's just so intelligent.
Well, I mean,
I
think that's the best point to that is drugs. They don't discriminate. They don't care if you're rich or poor.
No,
you come from a hard life, or you come from a very stable home.
Right.
Drugs are drugs. They don't care who you are.
That's right.
Their job is to keep moving and changing
and he was
people.
Raised in a church-going family with his grandparents nearby.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Who were also church. I mean, you are not immune, no matter.
But I think that
in a nice community, but that had nothing to do with.
But I do think
maybe you made it worse. I don't know.
But I do think that bothers me a little sometimes when people put this stigma or this label on someone and think that they come from a certain background or genre, and it's not. It does not care. It just doesn't. It doesn't care. What it wants to do is just feed off the victim, that's right, the addict, and continue to enable them.
And Lisa, you talked a little bit about the stress that it put on your family, because you have these 2 other children that you're also trying to raise, and this particular situation with your son was taking up and absorbing so much of your time and energy, yet you still had these other 2 kids to raise. On top of that, the financial strain it put on your family.
Oh, yeah.
And then the strain it puts on your marriage. Talk a little bit about all those areas.
Well, thankfully, his older brother is just, I mean, I'm sure it took his toll on him. He doesn't ever make it sound like it had a negative effect on his life per se, because he was older by then. He was doing other things. He had a strong friend group, a good head on his shoulder, also very smart. He was good. My daughter really struggled. And she, to this day, their relationship is very tricky, because his life dictated a lot of hers.
Yes.
And she had to be the one that would tell me what was going on, or to listen things, or couldn't be alone with him, or he had friends over that she felt uncomfortable with. Nothing ever happened, but just because of what Ollie was into, and he would have these moments of outrage toward her and that kind of thing. And so then we became very protective of her, and as parents, we were toast. We were like, you're going to have to just kind of, we're in coping mode. You're just going to have to figure out life yourself. So after he had moved out and moved on is when more we could work. My daughters had to work through a lot of things that we were really not there to be able to support her and walk her through, because we just were toast. We just didn't have anything left. In my marriage, the kid's dad was someone that, again, his approach was, marijuana is not that big a deal. It's not, he was more, and I'm like, let's get help. Let's do this. Let's do that. He did eventually agree to pay for putting him in the treatment center for 9 months. But he was more like I gotta work. Stress.
He would kind of he would check out.
He was like, I can't deal. You're gonna have to deal. I can't deal. So I was trying to navigate these waters. I felt very alone. Because it was just an easier way for him to
check out
and go to work, and he did a very stressful job, and so that's where he put his passion and his focus, and just like, get home, I'm too tired, I don't want to hear about it, I can't deal with it, and so I took
like, he's your kid
myself.
too. Yeah. It's your kid too. Hello.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
yeah. And I mean, I think you would say, if you're talking to any parent out there right now who's struggling with that, the importance of having a support system, of having people that are going to lift you up as you're going through this.
And also too, knowing that, I think also too, it's important to remind these people that are going through this process, whether it's someone that's trying to support an addict or the addict themselves, is to let them know, hey, you're probably going to fall back. You're going to fail. You're going to get disappointed in yourself, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But a lot of people I know just from, and I'm sure you do too, but just from being around the history of people, the mistakes they make, they feel like they build up so many mistakes and they mess up so many times that at some point it's just unforgivable. What's the point in stopping, right? They can't redeem themselves.
Right.
And there's no redemption in this.
Right.
You're fighting to survive. So once you get over that hurdle and you know that you've made the decision to be clean, that to me, you should be prideful. You should be like, hey, but also too, letting them know, just like the family members know, an addict's an addict. They're always going to be an addict. And that doesn't make it bad. What it does is you've got to be mindful of knowing that they're probably going to mess up again. And if they do, you got to love and support them, right? But then there's also that part the therapist can come in that you have to separate yourself too, because if you don't, it's going to drag you down like it's dragged them down.
Yep.
And I think when did you reach that point where you said, I've got to kind of separate the two and I have to live my life?
I think I would do it for a period, and then I would fall back into, I would get...
Trying to fix it.
Yes. And part of that was because when he was on his own and stuff, it was a lot easier, and he lived in another city for a while. That made it easier. He struggled over there. I could check in and whatever, and my thing was, is he still alive? I didn't get involved in the day details unless he wanted to tell me that. Is he still alive? But then when his dad wanted him to move back in with us, which I didn't agree with, because, when you go through this and go through all these programs, parents go through, we participated in every therapy program there was where he was involved, and they tell you all the time, boundaries, don't ever let him back home, don't ever let him back home. Well, the choice was not mine, it was his father's, and so having him there in the house, that made it a lot harder to separate.
Yeah.
And the number of times I had to say, that's it, put him out the door and lock the door and walk away, it was just heart-wrenching. But,
Yes.
So I did ebb and flow in that, but the best help for me was to get involved with other people in the same boat.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many support groups out there for parents of addicts, and that's what helps you be strong, is being in the community. If you're starting to all of us with our kids have been in the ups and downs of wanting to trust, wanting to rescue, and going, no, boundaries, all that, and that was the best help for me.
I love that you say that, because as your friend, I knew that you were going through all this, but it was hard for me to have that level of empathy that someone in a support group would have, because I know, like, even as your friend, it's like you feel helpless, like, how do I help my friend through this? But the fact that and I didn't even know that you attended these support groups. So, so I just learned that just as you were speaking, but I'm just like, that is so important to realize that you really do need someone who's been through it, because I can be a listening ear and I can tell you what a great mom you are, but there's times that's not enough. You need more than that.
Yes.
And so, those support groups are so important. If you're dealing with this out there, make sure that you find that level of support with somebody that can create that empathy with you and really support you through that, because it's so important. It brings me to think, like, how did you handle people's judgment of you? Because I'm sure that happened quite a bit.
Was it with a martini?
As a matter of fact, that was my drink of choice. my friend circle became smaller because you have the people that you can share that with and know that are going to love you and not try to tell you what to do all the time when they don't understand. You don't want to hear that from them anyway. And then you have the people that you're just going to hold the cards very closely. I don't want you to know. And eventually a lot of them do know because, you can't hide your home.
Cat's out of the bag. Yeah.
So I had to find a community. Like I quit going to the church that we had attended all the kids' lives to find a place where it was more acceptable, not to say negative thing about churches, but sometimes you're in a community of people like that don't want to hear the the bad parts of your life.
Yeah.
And then you find a place that they're not like that. And you can be you and you can share and you can be real and your family can be broken and you can be broken and that's not what it's about. It's a community of acceptable people that accept you and want to worship the Lord together,
love that.
which is why we're there. And so I did that and that made a huge difference too.
Yeah.
So I just kind of withdrew from people that I felt or perceived. I was judging myself enough. I mean, in that situation as a parent, what I do wrong, you're beating yourself up for, so I didn't need judgment from other people.
Well, and the one thing
people do that. They think that you're doing something wrong because your child's going through this,
or you didn't pray hard enough, or you didn't do whatever. And I'm
if you had only done XYZ.
I'm like, God forbid you ever have to walk this journey yourself, because I promise you, those little judgment jabs that you're throwing at people will come back and bite you.
Right.
They will. Not that you want anybody walking through that storm that you've walked through, but at the same time, you're like, look, God forbid, because like I said, it doesn't care who you are.
Yeah. Oh, they come find you if they ever experience that with a kid or a grandkid or a relative. All of a sudden, out of the blue, you'll.
Well, hey, how did you're like, well, listen.
Remember that time when I ignored you and was rude? Well, now.
Yeah. Now can you support me? Yeah. No, that's. I kind of watched that happen around you, and it was super sad because, if people know Lisa, they know what a dedicated, loving mother she is.
Well, I mean, I met Lisa not too long ago, and she's pretty stinking amazing.
But she's also just like
real,
crazy
she's
strong,
real. She's
crazy real, crazy strong. I mean,
she don't wear pennies. She's got to be crazy, right?
Oh my God, she's just so strong.
This does help you take life a lot lighter.
I bet it does.
Find the joy in the little things. Look at the lighter side and the brighter side, because there's always that heavy, yucky stuff, and you can't shake it off. You can't change it. So look for the things in there that are the little positives to keep you with a good outlook on life and a bright spirit.
I love that. I love that.
She can get through anything, this one. I'm just telling you.
So if you were to tell someone, any of our audience, what's the one thing you want them to walk away with through your experience?
Get help early on. Get support early on, I guess, is the main thing that I didn't really get a lot of support with people like me. Well, denial. I was in denial at first. But to reach out and get support, you can't change. No matter how hard I try, you see, I couldn't affect the way he was living his life. I can only affect me. Mm-hmm. And I should have gotten support sooner for myself from other people in the same circumstances. That would have helped me not feel so alone and help me navigate a little better and stronger, and I think that would have been good. I was seeing a therapist during that time, which really helped, but the community of people who have experienced, who've walked that path had a much bigger impact, because it's different when you talk to people that have experienced.
What is your relationship with your son right now? What does it look like?
It's good. I see him every 2 weeks. Not twice a week, I should say. He comes over, he hangs out, he joins all the family events.
Oh,
he's got a precious girlfriend that I love.
And there's redemption in this. Like, there's a good story right here.
Yes. And he has fallen off the wagon several times, and which is, of course, is very common for everybody, but in particular when they're young. And so this round, he's been sober for a little over a year. And he's got a great job. I mean, each time after he goes the cool thing about him is it was a long story about how this happened, but once he chose to overcome, every time he's gone into rehab 3 times since then, his choice, he's come out more, it's like 5 steps forward, maybe 3 steps back than another. So each time he makes more and more progress because it's his choice to get help. And since I released me of the responsibility, and pretty much since he was about 19 then, it's been his choice. And
I love that. I love that.
So no, we love him. My grandkids think he's the greatest thing on the planet, which is adorable because I know he still, in many ways, probably feels like a failure and like I've done a lot of things wrong. But having these little boys just worship, like he's kind of the favorite uncle. They just worship him and follow him. That makes him feel so good.
Well, I think it's important too, as we get ready to close this out, is to remind everybody you're not a failure because you make choices that aren't the best thing for yourself. You're a fighter if you choose, like your son did, to get himself help and to walk the walk and be strong. And it's not going to be every day you're going to fall back, but just remind yourself of how you got to where you're at, push through, be strong, know that you've got family that loves you and doesn't judge you, and be that example to other people. Yep. And for you, though, thank you for being on the show and sharing your journey as a parent, because it's not easy. You always worry about your babies, even if they're 50 years old, right? And so I really think it's important that and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with us, because it's hard. It's a hard journey, but we're so proud of your son. We're so proud of you for being the fighter and strong. Yeah.
One more this or that.
Oh, she's so up the this or that crawl. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Cowboy or firefighter?
God, she set you up on this one. You like a man with a horse or a hose? Y'all need to quit being dirty.
Yes.
She wants a fire. Oh, I know she does. She wants a fireman on a horse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. Yes.
Oh my gosh, we love us some Lisa, and she's just amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us, sharing your vulnerable story with us, because I know it's going to touch some parents out there who are dealing with their child. And what I can tell you right now is your relationship with your son is strong. You guys, he knows that you never gave up on him, and that's the most
so
important thing that he could ever know, is that you never once gave up on him. And so we want to leave y'all with that there is hope and there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. If you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health issues, please reach out to talk to someone you trust. Get connected to a mental health professional who can help you find ways to cope and ultimately feel better. If you are having suicidal or self-harm thoughts or thoughts of hurting another person, please go to the nearest ER, call 911, or contact the National Suicide Hotline at 988. Thank you for tuning in to Mental Perk. We hope our talk today highlighted real people working through real issues based on mental health. Our goal at Mental Perk is to make sure every one of you knows you're worthy. We're in this together.